Storage, supply and disposal of medication. Introduction to the module. Prescription medicine is the most common type of treatment given to patients. All patient care provider organizations are required to establish, document, and maintain an effective system to ensure that medicines are handled safely and securely. Properly storing and disposing of unused medications takes a little effort, but it is an important practice for the safety of yourself and others. Learning objectives. After completing the module, you should be able to demonstrate how the medicinal products store, justify the internal and external transporting of the medicinal products, break down what security would ensure during handling medicines along with the safety, review the controlled drugs, CDs, in care homes, discover how used and unused medicines would be disposal safely. Storage of medicinal products. The designated nurse in charge is responsible for ensuring that the ward or unit has enough stocks and supplies for individual patients at all times. For each community pharmacy where medicines are stored, the registered manager in charge of the unit is ultimately accountable for medicines held, ensuring that medicine policy procedures are followed correctly, and that the security of medicines is maintained. Community workers should provide information on how to store medications in patients' homes safely, in a secure location, out of sight and reach of youngsters, in a dry environment, preferably not a bathroom, keeping medications in the containers in which they were given. Transportation, internal or external. The key management principles should be applied to the transfer of medicines between sites within the same organization as well as between the organization and an outside location. Transfers should be initiated through a system that keeps track of all orders and dispatches. Receipt of goods should be recorded. Procedures and equipment used in the transport of products should be designed to ensure that the integrity and quality of the product are not compromised. Transfers of drugs outside of a healthcare organization should always be authorized. Personnel involved in the transportation of pharmaceuticals should be identified, authorized, and properly trained. When drugs are not under personal control during transit, secure containers in secure vehicles should be employed. Arrangements for the transport of controlled drugs must comply with current legal requirements. Within limits appropriate to the individual product, cold chain control should be maintained for items requiring refrigeration. Transporting medicinal products. Any authorized staff member who collects or delivers medicines accepts responsibility for the safekeeping of those medicines whilst in their possession. The pharmacy bears responsibility for ensuring that only authorized personnel with appropriate photo identification collect medicinal supplies. Medication carried by staff will be for A. Direct administration by a nurse to an identified client. B. Delivery to an identified client for self-administration over a specified period. C. An existing service user whose medication requires urgent review, but pharmacy services are not immediately available. Pharmaceutical products must be stored and transported under strict circumstances to guarantee that their quality is not harmed. The storage of drugs is a crucial part of the overall drug control system. When items requiring refrigeration are transported, care must be taken to maintain the cold chain at all times, using pharmacy-approved cool bags or boxes as appropriate. Security. Only authorized workers should have access to all pharmaceuticals from the moment they have received the medicines until they are utilized or removed from the organization. This includes medications brought in by the patient but not required for treatment and held prior to return to the patient or disposal. The legislative standards for the medical category should be followed. At each stage where a medicine changes hands, there should be clear policies explaining where the responsibility lies, what should be recorded, and how often reconciliation should take place. Procedures and policies should be consistent with the general security arrangements within the organization, and relevant staff such as risk managers, security officers, and local crime prevention officers should be involved to resolve any incidents. Medicines should be stored in a secure environment that is appropriate for their intended use at any given time. The pharmacy is considered to be the most secure location for medicines. However, the ward medicine cabinet, medicine trolley, and emergency cart should be under consideration for ensuring the best security. Medicines that are no longer in use or that are only utilized in an emergency should be moved to a more secure area. Procedures should be in place to guarantee that security in any storage space is maintained, especially if it is not staffed on a continual basis. Where applicable, equipment utilized in storage areas or during transportation should adhere to the necessary standards. Stock holdings in any location, as well as transfers between locations, should be documented. Records must be consistent, accessible, and dependable, as well as securely stored. It should be easy to audit the process and account for all stock changes, as well as to detect any losses that are unjustified. When products are misappropriated, procedures should outline the actions to be performed and the records to be kept. Documentation should be accessible only to those authorized. Order sheets and prescriptions, as well as other papers used for purchase or distribution of items outside the organization, should be kept in a secure location, and there should be a record of all issues of these documents. When patients take responsibility for their medicines under self-administration programs, they should be given information and advice on how to keep their drugs safe. Staff in any supervisory position should be aware of the signs that may indicate medication abuse or diversion. For example, changes in an individual's behavior such as lack of concentration, regular unexplained absences from the work area, a change in character like odd behavior, other changes such as stock loss or excessive ordering. Safety from medicines. The risks associated with the handling or administration of any medicine should be assessed for both staff and patients. A procedure should be available and followed to minimize the risks during storage, preparation, administration, or disposal of the medicine. Any legislative restrictions that apply to the specific medicine or class of medicines should be accounted for in the risk assessment and procedure. In that case, the organization should have a policy in place as part of its medicines management or clinical governance processes. As stipulated in the risk minimization procedure, equipment, gadgets, and protective apparel should be provided at the point of handling. Those handling any medication should get training, and competency checks should be performed at reasonable intervals. In unanticipated accidents such as spillages, a standard operating procedure (SOP) should cover the measures to be done, including reporting and record keeping. Controlled drugs, CDs, in care homes. These are medications, substances, or chemicals that are regulated by the government in terms of manufacture, possession, or use. Supply, reception, storage, administration, and disposal of controlled medications are all subject to additional safety and legal regulations. Controlled drugs must be kept in well-built, double-locking boxes that are either mounted on the wall or bolted into a laboratory bench drawer. Locked drawers alone are insufficient for the safe storage of controlled substances. Morphine, diamorphine, methadone, fentanyl, alfentanil, oxycodone, methylphenidate, dexamphetamine, ketamine, and tapentadol are just a few examples. Other schedules of controlled medications may be stored in the Controlled Drugs Cabinet and recorded in the Controlled Drugs Register by some services. Safe disposal of medicines. Expired or obsolete stock from the wards or units, syringes contaminated with remnant medicines returned by individuals is likely to be included in the safe disposal of medicines or pharmaceutical waste. There are three types of pharmaceutical waste. 1. Hazardous waste. 2. Non-hazardous waste. 3. Not pharmaceutically active and do not possess any hazardous properties, for example, sodium chloride or glucose solutions. Hazardous wastes are defined as controlled wastes that are extremely toxic, damaging, or dangerous. These wastes are classified as flammable, corrosive, carcinogenic, mutagenic, or poisonous, among other characteristics. As a result, these pollutants pose the greatest threat to human health and the environment. The majority of pharmaceutical waste isn't considered dangerous. Cytotoxic and cytostatic drugs are the only ones that are considered dangerous. These drugs are characterized as products with one or more of the following dangerous characteristics: toxic, H6, carcinogenic, H7, mutagenic, H11, or toxic for reproduction, H10. Therefore, waste should be disposed of in a prominently labeled purple-lidded yellow bin. The Hazardous Waste Regulations 2005 must be followed while disposing of pharmaceutical waste. Waste storage, transportation, processing, and disposal are all subject to strict rules meant to reduce waste's negative environmental impact. Hazardous waste cannot be mixed with non-hazardous waste, according to the rules. Sharp bins with purple lids must be kept apart from other medical waste. Highlights from the module. Pharmaceutical products must be stored and transported under strict circumstances to guarantee that their quality is not harmed. When drugs are not under personal control during transit, secure containers in secure vehicles should be employed. Controlled drugs must be kept in well-built, double-locking boxes that are either mounted on the wall or bolted into a laboratory bench drawer. Hazardous waste cannot be mixed with non-hazardous waste, according to the rules. A procedure should be available and followed to minimize the risks during receipt, storage, preparation, administration, or disposal of the medicine. Thank you. You have reached the end of this module.